Hi, thanks for being here. So today I am talking about navigating motherhood and my one guarantee that I can give you. As a mom of four, I have learned a lot of things, and the first one being I still have so much to learn. And I think we're all in that boat if we're being honest with each other, no matter where we're at in the journey of motherhood. So this is a video to share with you a few things about keeping balance in motherhood and marriage, and also maybe some tips for you for if you're really not loving motherhood at this stage that you're at. Okay, so if you're watching this video, obviously you are here because you're a mom, I'm guessing, and maybe you're new to motherhood, maybe you've been in it for years already, maybe you're about to be a mom and you're just trying to figure out how am I going to navigate this big switch in life. And no matter where you're at, I think that this video is going to be helpful because I have lots of tips for you on how to manage that. But as weird as it may sound, the first thing I want to address is marriage and motherhood, because that's the first big shift in what motherhood is. When you become a mom, you sort of become a new person in a lot of ways. There's a part of you that is sort of born at the same time that your baby is, right? You shift into this new role and this new human that you hadn't had to be before, right? You haven't had to take care of a person in that way. You probably also have never felt love for someone in that way, right? I can't compare the way I love my kids to anyone or anything else on this earth, right? So I think it's so important to pay attention to what's going on with yourself and how that affects your marriage. And the first thing that I would say to this is where a big boost in communication is absolutely necessary in your marriage, right? We hear all the time how important communication is in marriage, and it is. I don't mean to dismiss that, but this is a time where it's extra important. You just went through this process, or like I said, maybe you're years into it, but it still is a shift. It takes a long time to adjust to what you are like as a mom. And as you're doing that, you really need to be open with your husband about what that shift looks like and what's going on for you and who you are on the inside in this shift, right? So that can look different for every person. It doesn't mean that every person is going to need to ask for the same things from their husband or whatnot, but it is important that you know what those things are for yourself and that you're able to bring them up and to ask them and to say, hey, this is what's going on with me, or hey, I need you to know this, or this would be helpful for me from you right now, blah, blah, blah. So a big uptake in communication is the first thing that I would say. And you know also why that is so important is this is just good for marriage in general, but it helps you be more open about what's going on with you. It helps you be able to identify what's going on with you. If you're watching this and you're thinking, yeah, I want my husband to know what's really going on for me, the first thing you have to do is take a step back and know what that thing is. Are you really overwhelmed? Are you really tired? Are you really anxious? Are you really whatever it is? You have to take a step back and really look at yourself for a minute and identify what is it that's going on with me that would be helpful for him to know, right? The second thing that is the bonus out of this is that it opens the door for your husband to be able to share with you too of, hey, I totally want to help you out with that, or I want to meet your need there, or I didn't know that. Thanks for telling me. Or it can also help him be able to share what's going on with him, you know? So that's my first part, is increase your communication with what's going on with you in this new role as a mom. The next thing you need to remember is that overall, a family unit is some type of structure. You can think of it like a house or a building or whatever you want. It's a type of structure, and the foundation, the core, the frame, whatever you want to say of that structure is your marriage. That's why I wanted to talk about this first and foremost, is that navigating motherhood has so much to do with your marriage, really. That structure started with you two, and that structure needs to remain strong. And I don't want that to sound like, sometimes I get annoyed, if I'm being real, when you see marriage advice that says, schedule a weekly date night. Who does that? right? Like, I mean, it sounds great, but I do not know anybody that has kids, at least, that can do a weekly date night. Even without kids, I feel like that would be kind of a lot. And so I'm all about having realistic plans for your marriage, right? However, I want to say that the idea behind that is really good, because the idea behind it is spend time with each other, spend time working on your marriage, do things together, spend some quality time, make it a priority. I'm sharing all this because navigating motherhood is a hard thing, but it really starts with your marriage and making sure that your marriage doesn't take a back seat. I think that is one of the biggest things. There's several big things, but one of them that impacts marriages negatively, I really believe, is that when kids start coming into the picture, it's a beautiful, wonderful thing, but it is really hard on marriages if it's not done correctly or appropriately or whatever. Marriages end up taking a back seat, and it causes a breakdown of the marriage because it starts sending messages like, you don't matter, you're not important, I'm second best, things like that, right? One little quick side note that I would encourage, and I mean this as a very gentle encouragement, not as a judgment of any kind, but I would really suggest that if sleep is an issue for you or your baby, if you're in the baby phase, I would suggest finding a way to help your baby sleep so that you can sleep, and so that your bed can be a space for you and your husband. I think that's a really important thing. And, you know, like I said, I've had 4 kids. I understand there's different phases and things happen and whatnot. And we want to love our kids and be there for them. And I'm not speaking towards any like sleep method necessarily. All I'm saying at the end of the day is make sure that however your babies are sleeping, that it's a thing that is good for your marriage, right? And that can be a hard conversation. I get that. But I think it's a really, really important one, because years of sleep issues with kids and babies can turn into years of a lot of marriage damage, really. If you're interested on more on that, the 2 things I would recommend for helping with baby sleep would be Baby Wise. It's a book from, I like the old stuff, I don't know. It's a book from a while ago, but I think it's super helpful. And then there's also the more current one is Taking Care of Babies. She's on Instagram and has a website and blogs about how to, all sorts of baby sleep things. So those are 2 resources if you are in a place of, I need more sleep, and also that might be an issue in my marriage because we haven't had sleep, or we haven't had this time for ourselves or whatever. There's some insight on that. All right, the next tip I have for you right before I give you my guarantee is you need to get out of your head, mama. It is so easy to get stuck in our heads and go down crazy rabbit trails of all sorts of really negative thoughts or defeating thoughts about motherhood or our marriages or whatever it is. It's super easy to go wild places with that. I think first of all, our heads we can do that pretty easily on our own, but then we also have social media and all sorts of other things that just kind of add to that, right? When we have the time to sit and think, we open the door potentially to a lot of rabbit trails that lead to nowhere good. So I need you to get out of your head. Those thoughts that end up going wild keep you emotionally tied up from being present with your kids and with your spouse. Believe it or not, those thoughts that might be going wild all day long about the downsides of motherhood or the difficulty of motherhood, I'm not saying they're not true, but having them be the ever-present focus really takes away from who you are as a mom. It takes away from your emotional availability and connectivity with your kids and with your spouse. So you really, really need to work on getting out of your head and really getting those thoughts off of the forefront of your mind. Thoughts like, I'm home all day doing all the chores and I get no thanks for it. I'm exhausted. Isn't this obvious? I shouldn't have to ask for a date night. Why couldn't he initiate that? I don't even know who I am anymore. I feel like I have no purpose. I love my kids, but I feel so empty and so lonely inside. I know that all of those thoughts can be very real and very powerful sometimes, right? I am guilty of the one where I feel like I do all the things and nobody thanks me for it, right? I think that comes with motherhood a little bit. What you need to do to help get through some of these hard, realistic things of feeling alone or feeling isolated in some ways or feeling like this job is just kind of pointless or it's thankless, all those kinds of things. I understand those feelings can be very real. And I'm not dismissing them, and I'm also not saying that if you do this plan, then they'll go away forever. But I think you can change your mindset to really help yourself enjoy motherhood a lot more. The things that I would say for that is set some sort of routine, even if you're not a huge routine person. I'm not a huge routine person, but I do have like a little bit of the typical things that I try to do, or I have my priorities, I guess. It doesn't look the same every single day, and that works for me, but nonetheless, I have the things that I know are important and that I try to do, right? So whatever that is for you, do what fits for you. Maybe it's waking up early and having some time before kids get up. Maybe it's a workout at any time in the day that works for you. Maybe it's a daily walk. Maybe it's, I don't know, whatever it might be for you that is a good routine to have with your kids in tow and without at times, right? The other thing I would say is put yourself out there. I think one of the things I hear so often with motherhood, and I understand it, is that it can feel isolating. You're home, especially if you're a stay-at-home mom, even if you're not, because I've done both, be at home and worked part-time or full-time. No matter where you're at in that picture, it can still feel really isolating, and it's hard to put yourself out there, but you need to do it, because here's my guarantee. I guarantee you almost every other mother probably feels very similar to the way you do. It can be a hard job being at home and being emotionally drawn from all day long. It is the best job, but it can be hard. I know that. So don't do it alone. Reach out, put yourself out there, stick your neck out there and say, hey, do you guys want to meet up and go to the park? Hey, come over for a play date. Hey, let's have our husbands babysit so we can go out. Put yourself out there, because I guarantee you, you are not the only mom that feels this way. Find things that you can do with your kids that you enjoy, and find things that you can do on your own, and be open with your spouse about what that looks like. So I hope this has been helpful. Hit all the buttons and share with a friend, and we'll see you the next time.